The storm came down from the mountains like an angry god, tearing through pine and stone, swallowing paths that had existed for generations. Snow fell sideways, thick and blinding, and the wind howled so loud it drowned out prayer. That was when she ran. Her shawl was too thin, her breath ragged, her feet bleeding. Through torn boots as she stumbled. Through the frozen forest with two children clutched to her sides. Behind her, the valley burned, homes crushed by rock slides, screams swallowed by the storm. She did not know where she was going. She only knew she could not stop. And then she saw him. He stood at the edge of the mountain pass like something carved out of legend, tall, broad, wrapped in furs, his beard dusted white with snow, shoulders wide enough to block the wind itself. People whispered about him in the lowlands. They called him the giant mountain man, said he lived alone above the clouds, said he feared no storm and no man. She fell to her knees before him. "Please," she cried, her voice breaking as the children hid behind her, fingers clutching her coat. "Please don't leave us here." The mountain man looked down at them, his eyes dark and steady. He had seen death before, avalanches, hunger, men broken by winter. He had learned long ago that survival meant solitude. "I live alone," he said, his voice deep, almost lost in the wind. "The mountain takes what it wants." She lifted her face, tears freezing on her lashes. "Then let it take me," she whispered. "Just don't let it take them." The children were silent, too cold to cry, too tired to hope. Something in him shifted. He remembered another storm, another woman, another child he had failed to save years ago when he chose the mountain over people. He turned away then, and the mountain never let him forget. He knelt, pulling the children into his massive fur cloak. They disappeared against his chest like birds against a bear. "I won't leave my family," he said quietly. She looked up, confused. "We are not—" "You are now." He lifted them as if they weighed nothing and turned toward his cabin, hidden deep in the cliffs. The wind screamed louder as if angered by his choice. Snow swallowed their footprints behind them. That night by the fire, the children slept for the first time since the valley fell. The woman watched the mountain man silently mend boots, dry clothes and stir soup thick with meat and roots. No one had spoken her name. No one had asked his. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, something ancient and fragile was being rebuilt, and the mountain listened. Chapter 2. Winter did not end quickly. It never did up there. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The children learned the cabin's creaks, the way the fire popped before dying, the sound of the mountain man's steps at dawn. He taught them how to set traps, how to read the sky, how to respect the mountain instead of fearing it. The woman, her name was Mara, watched him from a distance at first. She had learned not to trust safety. It could disappear overnight. But every morning food appeared. Every night the fire burned. Every storm he stood between them and the cold. One evening, as snow fell softly instead of screaming, Mara finally spoke. "Why did you help us?" The mountain man stared into the fire. "Because once," he said slowly, "I chose to walk away." He told her everything then. The family he lost. The child he never carried far enough. The guilt that built his cabin stone by stone. "I thought being alone would keep me alive," he finished. "But it only kept me breathing." Mara reached for his scarred hand. "You saved us." He shook his head. "No, you saved me." Spring came like a promise kept. The snow retreated. The mountain softened. Birds returned. And one morning, Mara stood at the door with the children. "The lowlands are rebuilding," she said. "People are going back." The mountain man nodded. He had known this day would come. "Come with us," one child said, eyes wide with fear at the thought of leaving him behind. He knelt, placing his massive hands on their shoulders. "This mountain is my home." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "You said you wouldn't leave your family." He smiled, a rare, gentle thing. "And I won't." He packed his life into little more than memory and followed them down the mountain. Years later, people spoke of a giant. Men in the valley who built homes strong enough to survive storms, who stood between danger and the helpless, who never walked away again. And somewhere high above, the mountain stood quiet, no longer angry. The valley was alive again, but alive in a fragile way. like a bird that had just learned to fly after being broken. Homes rose from the rubble, smoke curled from chimneys, and the river ran clear beneath bridges rebuilt by calloused hands. Yet Mara could feel it, the shadow of what had happened never fully left. Every gust of wind reminded her of the storm. Every crackling fire reminded her of the nights they had survived. And always there was the mountain man. He did not speak often, but he was everywhere, repairing roofs, hauling firewood, carrying the children on his shoulders through the mud, and teaching them the ways of the wild that still lurked beyond the edges of the valley. The villagers whispered about him. Some called him a hero, some called him a ghost. No one dared question his presence. After all, they had survived because of him. One morning, Mara awoke to a scream, not from the wind, not from the children, but from the valley itself. Smoke rose from the far edge of the town, and she saw it. A fire consuming homes like it had consumed their old village months ago. Panic swept through the streets. People ran with buckets, blankets, and children, their faces masks of terror. The mountain man moved faster than anyone had ever seen. His feet barely touched the ground as he charged into the chaos, his massive frame a shield for those too weak to run. Mara followed, shouting to the children to stay back, but they refused to leave his side. He moved between them and the flames like a living wall, dousing fire with water, carried in enormous buckets and shoving, burning debris out of the way. His voice roared over the screams, guiding the villagers, commanding them, grounding them. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, burning through the smoke, revealing the devastation, but also the bravery it had inspired. Homes were saved, children were unharmed, and a stunned village looked upon the mountain man with awe. For the first time, Mara saw something she had not expected, a tear glinting on his cheek. Not for himself, not for the work he had done, but for the lives he had protected. That night, under a sky painted with stars and smoke, Mara finally spoke. "You've given everything," she said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Why? Why do you do all this for us, for everyone?" He looked at her, and for once, his usual calm was tempered by a deep, almost fragile honesty. Because family isn't always who you're born to. It's who you stand for, who you fight for, who you carry when they cannot carry themselves. You all, my family, is why I wake every morning, why I stay. The children ran to him, climbing onto his lap, hugging his massive arms. "Don't ever leave us," one whispered. He smiled, a rare, gentle smile that softened the harshness of his giant features. "I won't," he promised. "Not ever." Mara realized then that he was more than a protector. He was a bridge between the mountain and the valley, between fear and hope. And just like that, the villagers began to understand. Life was not just surviving, it was living together. As a family, built not of blood alone, but of trust, courage, and unwavering loyalty. From that night on, the mountain man was no longer a legend whispered about in fear. He was a part of the valley, a living symbol of resilience. And Mara knew in her heart that no storm, no fire, and no force could ever break them again. And as the children slept safely beside the fire, Mara whispered softly, "Thank you." He only nodded, his eyes reflecting the firelight, the mountains beyond, and the promise he had made long ago to never leave his family, no matter what came. And if this story moved your heart, if you believe in courage, family, and standing strong when the world turns against you, subscribe to the channel now. More epic emotional stories like this are coming every week. Don't miss the moments that change lives forever.